Today we're going to talk about skin, and for you to understand exactly what happens over a period of about 2 years with skin therapies. A lot of times when we think about a therapy, we think once we've had the therapy for our skin that there's going to be ongoing reduction of the effect. In other words, you'll get worse and worse and worse after you've done something. It's like buying a new gift for yourself. You go, this is fantastic, and after you use it for about a year, it starts to fall apart. Interestingly, what I want to do is explain to you quite the opposite of how if the proper treatments are done for the skin, that actually your best effect is about 2 years out. So I want to explain to you what that means. I'm not going to get through all the little details because it's already been sort of encapsulated in other types of videos, but I think this is a good synthetic video where I can put everything together and have you understand this better. We're going to talk about 3 principal things for skin today: Botox, fat transfer, and plasma skin resurfacing. How do they work together? What are your expectations over the short term and over the long term? That way you can sort of have a projected understanding over the first 2 years of where the result will be headed. In fact, all 3 of those things will improve over 2 years instead of begin to get worse. So let's talk about it in brief. Fat transfer, as you know, and we talked about in another video, actually looks the best if done in the right hands about 2 years out. Why is that? Well, I always use the model of a hair transplant in the sense that when you put a graft into a head for a hair, the hair doesn't start growing at 2 weeks or 5 weeks or even 3 months oftentimes. Most oftentimes, when the new blood supply is there, it starts at about 6 months and continues to improve up to about 2 years. So the fat transfer, you go through that initial swelling, it starts to dissipate, you go through that little bit of a nadir, a dip where it doesn't look so good, and starting at about 6 months onward, it continues to improve. So you're really maxing out at 2 years. Now, why does that relate to the skin? We have talked about it before in 2 regards, and I want to summarize that again because you probably don't think about fat transfer as helping the skin. You probably just think it's to rejuvenate your face, which it does, obviously. It's the primary intention. But there's 2 reasons. One, we talk about lighting, which is the idea that when a face is flat and deflated and there are many shadows, because we always live with overhead lights hitting us, that once I create the nice convexity and there's light bouncing off a cheek, bouncing off a brow, bouncing off the anterior chin, you have the perception of youth, even from a great distance. And beyond that, you also have lighting on the skin. When the skin is well lit, it looks good. When the skin is poorly lit, it looks bad. But if you think about it, day in, day out, we just live in a world with overhead lights, unless we're sort of in like this studio where there's more diffusion. We always live in a world with overhead light, and we always look bad. So the skin will look better when there's more convexity and light. So that usually continues to improve over 2 years. The same thing is true in terms of some stem cell changes. This is a purported thinking that after about a year or 2, your skin actually gets better over time with fat transfer. And the reason is that the fat can have some stimulatory effects on the skin. This is not a guarantee, but it's something that I see quite consistently, that the skin softens and over time. And that, again, takes about a year to 2 years to really see that result. So the skin changes that I'm talking about in fat are moderately apparent early, but they're truly in full effect about 2 years out. So I want you to think of that trajectory of ongoing improvement over 2 years. Second thing, Botox. We talked about a lot of it, and remember that in my other videos I really tried to refocus your thinking away from the quick fix, what I call the addiction, which is moving you from this roller coaster ride of, oh, I look great, and then when it goes away it looks bad, but moving you toward what I call plateau, which means if I constantly do Botox for you in a consistent fashion over the first 1 to 2 years, which are the most important times, I don't allow the skin to crepe and crease, and I affect the fundamental cause for a wrinkle, which is what else is it? It's movement. So if I block the movement, I heal the skin. But the thing that I want you to understand about that roller coaster to plateau is that early on, when it looks good, you're just getting the quick fix. But if you stay consistent with it long enough, the skin begins to heal because you're not creasing it. I use the analogy of a shirt. So with a shirt, if you wear the shirt all the time, it's constantly creasing, but if you let the shirt hang up long enough, the wrinkles begin to fade over time. It's just like that with your skin, except a shirt never heals because it doesn't have the capacity to heal. Your skin does. So consistent Botox, especially in your first 1 to 2 years, will give you profound healing about 1 to 2 years out. So once again, moving away from the concept of the quick fix and understanding that your skin will look better with Botox in 2 years, even after 2 years if you stop for a while, because I've had enough time to create a consistent pattern of healing where your skin is healed. So once again, that 2-year trajectory of your skin looking better over that time. If you continue to do Botox, it continues to actually maintain that as well as possible, like exercise. Consistent exercise, if you stop it, you'll start to slow down in terms of your health, but if you do long enough time, it'll continue to heal. So I wanted to have you understand the trajectory of Botox is just like a fat graft. They both get better over 2 years, except the Botox you need to consistently apply, and the fat transfer is really a one-time deal. Finally, plasma. As you know, plasma is basically hyperexcited nitrogen gas on the skin. The way to understand plasma is that I used to do a lot of chemical peels. I stopped doing them because they took care of the superficial damage, the outer crusted sort of caked skin, or the little bit of brown discoloration. But after about 6 months, it started to go down. So your peel result was a good early fix, but didn't provide really long-term gains. It's quite the opposite of understanding what plasma does, because what it does is it does affect early on that same beautiful change to the outer layer of skin. But when there's a deep textural issue to the skin that's underlying, it takes about a year to year and a half for that improvement to occur. So I wanted you to understand that all three treatments, plasma, fat, and Botox, are working on the skin, and they all three actually improve over time. Minus, of course, over time a little bit of aging that occurs a few years down the road. But I don't want you to think of it like a gift where you open it, it starts to disintegrate on you. It actually begins to improve. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is how do I merge all three of these concepts into one, and how will they work for you overall? All three are a bit independent in the sense that you don't have to wait to do Botox with fat grafting, and you can do them independently of one another. In fact, I always say if you don't have time to actually have some recovery time for the fat grafting or plasma, go ahead and move toward Botox. So the Botox will be an easy office procedure that will move you in the right direction so you can start healing instead of start to worsen. But this is how I look at the face. Let's take a look at the face like this and understand what parts are each of these things affecting. The fat grafting, as you probably know, you may not know, I don't put in the forehead. I don't believe it's safe in that area. I don't believe it actually provides safety over the long run. So I'm putting fat in the lower to mid half of the face. So the stimulatory effects, the shape, design, and all those things that are improving over 2 years is affecting the skin here, okay? Where does Botox work? Now, of course, you can do Botox around the mouth, which I occasionally do, but I generally don't do it except to break some habits in that area. For the forehead, I really try to get consistency and healing around the eyes, in the middle of the eyes. So Botox is working on the upper half of the face. So if you think about it, fat grafting is providing great healing to the lower to mid face of the face, and the Botox is providing great healing of the skin on the upper central face. So they work in tandem. Where does plasma work? It works on the entire thing. I call this the belt and suspenders approach, because essentially what I'm doing, even though it may not be a good style statement to wear belt and suspenders, it provides for you, the patient, a double whammy. So I'm getting a double effect to really provide as good a result as I can for your skin. By doing so, if you can do that, I think it would be wonderful. The core, though, is the fat transfer and the Botox. The plasma, I consider gravy on top of that. And then on top of that, if you work with your esthetician and you work with the person that can help with you with a daily regimen to help your skin in terms of counseling about sun avoidance, about counseling about not smoking, counseling on good nutrition, counseling you on hydration and moisturizers. That's something that I don't really do because it's out of my sphere of influence, but it's a great way to partner with an esthetician so you understand how each part can work together in unison to help your skin. Hopefully that was a good overview for you to understand how each of the different components that I work with affects each part of your skin, and remembering that concept of the belt and suspenders so you can understand more of a universal approach towards skin management.